up, everybody? Welcome to The Slice. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing the 2020 tennis season, as well as our picks on what's going to happen in 2021. To do so, I have my main man, the one and only, my college teammate, great friend, Tony T. Tran. Tony, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris.
This is pretty funny. As I was going back through this and spitballing some things, the first time I met you was 17 years ago. And then the first time I saw your picture was at East Grand Rapids, hanging on the wall. And I was like, man, who's this kid who was the #1 player in the country at 12 years old? How can you be my friend?
I'm trying. I'm still all right at tennis, so I'm trying to get back to those days, right?
Yeah, no, man. So honestly, I thought it'd be super fun to invite you on this segment as I think about, what's happened over the course of this year. I'm just gonna dive right into it by going into the Australian Open, but it's been like, I feel like the Australian Open happened like, I don't know, years ago, man. I feel like so much has happened since then. Novak won the Australian men's, Sophia Keating won the women's, and then all of a sudden we, entered into this pandemic, which is changed the world maybe forever. From your perspective and being a tennis coach and seeing that all unfold, like, what were your thoughts on the pandemic? What it did to tennis? What it did for players? We'll start there.
Yeah, we sometime this year the NCAA started closing sports.
Yeah.
As well, and then I forgot which professional sport shut down first, and then of course tennis was going to happen next. I mean, it's an international sport, and I think has had to shut down more than even sports that are played in domestically, because international travel, flying back and forth, we don't know where, if you travel out, the virus goes here and there. So tennis was an easy one. That was going to be shut. Anything international was going to be done. But I mean, they got it back together and, played a few tournaments, which was better than nothing. And, no fans in the crowd, but at least they got some tennis. I didn't think there were going to be any tennis at all this year, but at least we got some play, but maybe not the best quality of tennis the last few months, but at least it was something for us to watch on TV. And,
for sure,
everybody's skill was not there this year. Whoever did well at these tournaments they won more by competing, and who wanted to win more. That's pretty much it. And it's not by like who had crazy amount of skills, but just who wanted to win. That's pretty much it.
It's funny. I totally agree with you, but it's always fun to see you really serious, because when you're serious, you're locked and loaded. I'm like, yo, who's this guy I'm talking to right now? Giving analytics on tennis, man. No, but it's true though, man. I think the pandemic, the one thing I think was interesting is, one, it gave players time to rest, and two, it showed you what's most important in life. Like, I'm sure a lot of players were like, hey, we're going to make, $2-3 million this year. And then they got to spend a ton of time with their family. And just really, it's good for some, it's not good for maybe others. But I think this was a year where, you hugged your loved ones as a pro player. You took a step back and really thought about the things that are important to you in your life. And then the USTA, kudos to them, because they got the US Open to actually happen. I mean, I heard a crazy stat that, they say, somewhere between $200 to $300 million, just by having that, because, TV deals, contracts, all those other things still paid out. So kudos to the USTA for doing that. But as I think about the US Open, and I'm curious to hear your perspective as well, a couple of things really stood out to me. One, Black Lives Matter. I think the statement and everything that happened with that, it kind of showed athletes, especially in tennis, just how powerful they can be. Like, all the owners of these sports, they need athletes, right? Without the athletes, they don't have a product. So it's kind of like we're at a point where, Naomi Osaka decided I wasn't going to play. The whole tournament shut down, right? And I mean, it just shows you the voice. If people use it in the right way, that can change the world. Another thing that stood out was just Novak hitting the lady, hitting the lady. And to be honest, like, I think we even talked about this offline. You said something like he acted like he was sorry, but he wasn't really sorry. I don't think he really was sorry. I think he was more worried about what people would think of his image, and then if the lady was actually okay. What did you think?
I think Novak, he did felt sorry at the beginning, but then he was more worried about getting disqualified or his Grand Slam titles on the line than more about her, because he made something like, did she leave in the hospital, to the hospital or anything? And he was, that should have been quicker. The tournament director should have pulled the plug in 15 seconds, just because it was Novak Djokovic. They took 15 minutes debating about it, but he did care at the beginning, I think, for her safety. But then he was really worried about his Grand Slam amount, because of course he's close to his amount of titles. But
Yeah.
I think that's what he really wanted to play more. The directors made the right decision, and they disqualified him.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, it was fun seeing all the memes, right? The things that popped up with, there was one like him or Federer and Nadal laughing like the moment he knew he effed up, right? And I think that is an example of one of the reasons why he won't go down as being one of the greats, or he will go down as being one of the greats, but not necessarily being the GOAT, the greatest of all time, because he still kind of has this little crybaby mentality locked up in him, whereas the other guys don't. I mean, you saw he lost 2-1 to a lucky loser. I mean, that's just who he is, right? He tries when he wants to when it's on the line, but he doesn't give everything he has every single match. You know what I mean? So to me, that's his downfall. As a player, he's still great by any means, but I think the U.S. Open kind of showed that. And another thing that was interesting is the finals. I read a couple comments on Twitter that said the U.S. Open finals look like the boys 12 Midwest clothes.
That was me, man. That's how
that was you. I don't even know who I'm talking to these days.
That's how I used to play tennis like that, and I guess you could still win the U.S. Open playing like that. So,
do you really think it was a push fest?
Yeah, of course. I mean, they were so scared that they couldn't hit the ball. But I'm not saying there was a push fest the whole time, but here and there throughout the whole match. But definitely the last set, the last few games, where both of them were really scared, and Zverev's defaulting or serving 60-mile-an-hour second serves, and Thiem couldn't really drive the ball like how he usually does. But I mean, they're still professionals, and they still managed to pull it off. And
the reality is, did that make it exciting though? Didn't it make it exciting actually watching this level and seeing two guys just so nervous they couldn't even function? Basically, it was legit. Like, you can go out there and hit with them because they were just way about 13, 15 feet behind the baseline, just trying to hit the ball.
It was entertaining for sure. It was funny.
100%.
It was very funny.
Because you didn't know what was gonna happen. It was like, who's gonna shank a ball? Who's gonna dump a volley? Like, it was like, to me, honestly, it reminded me a little bit of college tennis when it got tight, right?
Yeah,
maybe for me, but like, that's what it reminded me of. It's like 3-all in the match, down to the last match. You got a couple people just like looping, moonballing, doing that type of stuff.
That just shows you the two sides of tennis. There's the skill side and the mental side, and you pretty much have to have both to be a Grand Slam champion. You just can't have skill and win your way through it. And that just showed that it takes mental discipline too, and learning how to play without fear to be a champion. And it was funny though, but I don't think they'll be like that ever again, because they got their both to the finals, and I think they'll be more relaxed when they have a chance to win another Grand Slam going forward.
Think about this. Imagine if the stadium was packed. I think Zverev may have used the bathroom by himself. Oh man! But on the women's side, Osaka wins again, and she really took a stance, like I said, with the Black Lives Matter. I think that's a very important issue that happened this year, and something that hopefully can change our thoughts, the world, and how we interact. The one thing I wanted to bring into question was Serena Williams, right? She's 39, I believe now. She's still getting to major semifinals. Can she win another one?
If she stays healthy, yes, she can. At that age, I'm 37, so I think I know what it's like being late 30s more than you do. But I think if she stays healthy, she'll win another one. I think she's gonna win another one either way, either this year or the following year. But because she's the best competitor in women's tennis history. That's hands down. And she has unbelievable skill to her serves, one of the best. I mean, her serves better than most guys serve anyway. So
For
I
sure.
think she'll win one more, and then she'll call it after that. But based on how she competes, you can't. She'll do another one, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's funny too because I mean it all depends on how long she's gonna play, and I think you said the biggest thing is she stays healthy, she can for sure win a few more, right?
Yeah.
But if she gets injured, I mean, who knows? It could be downhill for the rest of her career. So I mean, I
Yeah.
think time is only gonna tell. But with that said, I think it was an exciting U.S. Open to watch. Um, it was good just to see just a different aspect without fans and still be as exciting to watch. And I mean, I think I felt the same way about the French Open. The only thing that changed was, everybody goes from complaining about the tennis ball at the French Open to, Nadal's winning another French Open title. And to be honest, I don't see him losing the next 8 French Open titles if he's somewhat remotely healthy. I just don't think there's guys that can beat him on clay. And again, even though he lost, right? He lost in a warm-up tournament. I mean, the reality is no one cares. It matters, did he win the major or not? Because no one's going to remember him losing to Schwartzman, right? By the way, I have to say, I have no idea how a guy who's 5'7" can ball like that. I'm just putting it out there. I don't know how he can ball like that. He reminds me of a little Jared Miller.
Yeah,
He's reminds me of just like this small guy serving like 90 miles an hour, just cracking the ball off both sides. But from a French Open perspective, what stuck out? Anything stick out to you besides all the players complaining about the new tennis ball, which obviously was totally fine in my opinion?
I think it was such a tough tournament to watch. I didn't enjoy watching the French Open as much as the U.S. Open because the conditions the French Open was, I think it was rainy and gloomy and cold, so it wasn't like real tennis. You really couldn't see the real effects of the real clay court bounce of the ball or the surface when they play in May, because when they play in May, the ball does totally different things like jump higher, and then when they played in October, it was just more of a, I guess, who wanted to win more, and that's pretty much it. Because it was such, you can't put the ball away in those conditions. So is who's going to really willing to play, run every ball down and make every single ball. And I think in the girls' side, everybody competed pretty well. I mean, girls, I think overall the tournament, I know some scores were maybe not the closest score, but I think they had, most girls competed more than the guys' side. I think guys' side, I think going into the matches, you can tell who's going to win more based on like the previous rounds. I mean, of course, there's good matches, but I don't think everybody was, all the guys was all mentally there. Like the girls' side, I think they were every girl wanted to compete, and
Yeah.
and like what's that girl's name, Iggy, the rapper, Iggy,
Iggy? Iggy Azalea, no. Seriously, how you say, honestly, we were talking during the tournament, and I mean, I think I bet against the girl like every match, and then I saw her play, and I was like, geez, this is like, what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Rocky IV, Drago just beating everybody, and I just thought she was gonna lose, and I thought Sophia Keating could take her down. Because the girl would be nervous, but the girl played ice cold, just ice cold. And you already know my beef with Keenan losing 0-0. I just think if you're a Grand Slam winner, you should never lose 0-0 in tennis. I personally, I have to think back through. I know I lost 1-0, but I don't know if I lost 0-0 to anybody. And I just feel like you gotta be able to put together 4 points. You just have to be, right?
Yeah, you should. I mean, I lost 0-0 before, even though in college I lost 0-0 once, and
You shouldn't tell
I threw my racket into the woods during the match, but it happens, I guess. There's a difference between not caring and losing 0-0 but playing so bad and losing 0-0. I don't know. If yeah, I think for a professional, if you should not be able to lose 0-0 ever, because you're a professional and you can be able to put together a couple points. 4 points, and I think but it happens to the best of us, and but she can't, but that's life in tennis.
For sure, for sure. And on that note, I mean, yeah, the 19-year-old, I believe, she won. I think she'll be women's tennis to me right now is a little more exciting than men's because men's is more predictable. Women's is not predictable at all. And even though I mean we saw it this year, it's always been like that. You have someone who wins a major this year, you may not hear from them next year. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's just unpredictable. And to me, that makes tennis exciting. It's kind of like in tennis, from our perspective, it's like if you always know Ohio State's going to win, it's not worth watching, right? Oh, but if you know they're going to lose or have the chance to lose, you're going to watch. So, same thing with women's tennis. And, I know Nadal obviously didn't, I wouldn't bet against him. Like we say, don't bet against Tesla, right? Uh, but anyway, last couple things for you. Um, so one of the things that really stuck out to me is, we've been talking a lot about our, trading, right? Calls and puts. So if you think about your disappointment, like watching tennis, and I'll give you a second to think about it because I'll tell you my biggest disappointment. But what's your biggest disappointment that you saw from a pro tennis perspective this year?
Let's see here. I'm trying
And
to
I'll
think.
tell you, how about I'll start. Make it easy. So while you think, I think the biggest disappointment for me is Americans men's tennis.
Yeah, yeah.
Because honestly, we have the resources, we have the coaches, the players definitely have the talent. But I think one of the worst matches I saw this year, Stevie Johnson losing at the French, 0-1. By any means, I'm not talking bad about these guys. They're amazing. I think they're great players. I just think when the going is tough, they fold. And I mean, I was really big on, Tiafoe at the US Open. And I saw him play Medvedev, and it wasn't the same Tiafoe we had watched from rounds before. So in my opinion, I really think right now we're pretty far off from an American male having a chance to win a Grand Slam. I mean, I think we're at least, 5 years away from that happening.
Yeah, I don't think the American men's side is going to win a Grand Slam for at least 10 more years. I mean, the guys out there are still legit. I mean, they have American tennis always have like usually the best servers, the best forehands. They can't hit a backhand worth shit, but but they have zero discipline. I mean, they have like a hell of a serve, but they can't put together a consistency.
Right.
They like to overpower people every time. So and if they can't overpower people, they're really not going to willing to hang and just grind it out. They're just not. I mean, they can serve their way out of points sometimes, games, but that's not realistic to be able to hit winners on serves and forehands all the time. So, but they're not willing to dig deep like the Spaniards are. The Spaniards they're willing to fight every single point. Now, if American player had the serve and the forehand and willing to dig deep, you'll see a champion eventually. But it's not there. Like in the women's side, a lot of the girls like Coco, you got coming up, and they just compete really well. The women's side compete really hard, while the guys' side is just more play some tennis, have some fun, and enjoy life. Pretty much, that's what it is.
Yeah, make good money, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you should just call them stockbrokers, right?
I mean, if they like that, that's nothing wrong with that too. If you
And
don't,
that's the thing, though, yeah, because you hit that. I love that because a lot of times commentators are like, "Oh, this guy's doing this," but if I want to make the fourth, if my goal is to make the fourth round of the U.S. Open, I made it. I should be happy. I shouldn't have to worry about someone criticizing me because I didn't try as hard or I didn't play as well. Like it's a process, and to you, it couldn't be more honest. Like, what do these players want for their career? If they don't want to be a Grand Slam champion, it doesn't matter. They're not going to be. So I think that's 100% true. We can't want more for them than what they
yeah,
want.
yeah,
That's the reality. Just like I can't, being friends, you can't want more for me than I want for myself. It just doesn't work that way.
yeah. I mean, if they're good people, I mean, it's way more important than being a great tennis player, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. But on the flip side, my call, like I like to say, is I think American women's tennis is in very good place. I mean, they are just loaded with players, from Coco to Jennifer Brady to Shelby Rogers. I mean, a lot of they have young, I mean, 15, 14-year-olds who are coming up. I mean, the future is very, very bright. And I just think it's amazing how many talented people they have. You know, you have the generation of the old, you have the generation of the new, and it's fun to watch personally. And the one thing I don't want Coco to burn out because it just really frustrated me this year listening to the commentators talk about her and like she's a 40-year-old woman. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
give her a second to develop. She needs some time. I think she's going to be great. I think Jennifer Brady reminds me of a young Sam Stosur. But a lot of these women, they just seem humble. You know what I mean? Like they seem like, yeah, I got to the semis of the U.S. Open, but I'm a humble person. I'm not saying the men aren't. I'm just saying like they just seem like really good people. So I think they're likable and they can help the sport grow, which in my mind is very, very important.
Yeah, agree. Definitely agree with that.
All right, last question for you. If let's say I know we're still in a pandemic and the Australian Open's creating their own little bubble. That's the latest I heard as of I think this morning. They're trying to at least. We won't go past the Australian Open because to be honest, no one knows what will happen after that. Are we going to have a bubbles of tournaments? Are we going to play tennis? The one thing I can be sure is you and I will both be teaching tennis. But in true story, like if you, what's your calls for 2021? Like if you had to call the Australian Open or something that's going to surprise you from a player perspective.
I think for men's side, you got to go Novak again, even though Nadal won the French Open and beat Djokovic last. You have to go Djokovic. He's just too confident in that tournament. Women's side, it's too hard to say. It could be, yeah, it just depends. I mean, there's like always a group of like 8 women that can actually win the Grand Slam.
For sure.
So it's too hard to predict for the women's side on that one.
Yeah, yeah. I would agree with that. So I'm going for something even bigger than that. So men's side, ready for this? I'm going with Nick Kyrgios to win a major next year. I'm calling it right now. The guy, listen, the guy hasn't played in a while, but I'm sure he's going to surprise people. He's going to come back out strong. That's my call. My other call on the women's side, I'm going with Coco to win a major next year. If the one thing to notice about her, Coco never gets crushed on the court. Every match is a grind. If she's going to lose, she's going to go down fighting. She has like that Nadal mentality. So I think she's going to break through and win a major next year. Those are my 2 calls. And I'm even calling one bigger than that. The world, I hope they're ready for this, Tony. Roger Federer, Serena Williams, and Venus Williams will retire at the end of 2021. You heard it here first. I said it.